The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
WWE Developmental NXT.
Welcome everyone to Wrestling to the Max's NXT review, and this is for the February 22nd, 2017 edition. We also want to let you guys know that if you want to find all our other great reviews like SmackDown Live, Monday Night Raw, or even 205 Live, you need to go check out W2Mnet.com. That's right. That's the website that you can go find all our great content, along with some great written reviews, and of course some other content that you may like video games. That's right. Lots of reviews over there for that as well. So trust me, just go check out that site. You'll love it. Also, don't forget, hey, also you can get all our great content on whatever you use, iTunes or even Stitcher, by just going ahead and hitting the subscribe button on Wrestling to the Max. Do that, or of course, if you want to get everything in our network, you need to go subscribe to the W2M network itself. That's right. It gives you a lot more than just wrestling. You got soccer, you got American football, you got video games, you got more wrestling podcasts than us. So trust me, if you love wrestling, sports, or anything of the above, go check out the W2M network. Besides that, I'm your host, Gary Vaughan, and of course with me tonight is Mr. Paul Leazar.
Heyo.
And Paul, we are without Sean, but that's okay. You know, every once in a while, the man needs a break. He does a lot of different things. So we are going to do NXT together tonight. And so why don't we go ahead and get started? Let's do it, man.
Let's just dive right in then, because we have a huge episode.
I'm sorry, Paul. I can't hear you. If you're trying to talk, your mic cut out. Are you there?
Hello.
There you are. I don't know what happened. It sounded like you got unplugged.
I swear to God, Skype is just... okay.
Was it Skype? I wasn't sure if it was Skype or your mic.
I don't know
if it...
I just replugged in my mic, and I don't know if it's a Skype thing, but it's not the first time you and I have had this problem when it's just you and me, so...
Yeah, I don't know, man. Whatever it is. But you're here, so we can finally do this thing.
Oh, my goodness. So we open number one contenders match for the women's title. Peyton Royce takes on Ember Moon and Liv Morgan in a triple threat. Billie Kay is at ringside supporting Peyton here. And this sort of breaks down into them trying to keep Ember Moon out of it as much as possible, and Peyton Royce and Liv Morgan doing the lion's share of the work, which I think works into the story that they've done here, because obviously Ember Moon is the other real big dangerous force in the women's division right now. Peyton Royce and Billie Kay have sort of had their way with Liv Morgan and Aaliyah and pretty much anybody else that's got in their path due to their double teaming, and that continues to pay off here. Royce does get the victory. She pins Liv Morgan after a fisherman's suplex. A fine match overall. I think it does a lot of storytelling, though, in the 8 to 9 minutes that it does get.
Yeah, match quality is good here. You know, it's pretty solid for what you expect out of a triple threat plus an added person to come out there and kind of cause some interference. So that's fine. I have no qualms with that. I think it's kind of good that they gave the opportunity really to focus on Liv Morgan and Peyton Royce. I think it's better, especially if you want Liv Morgan to continue to progress, and if she is going to be something bigger with this whole, maybe being one of the top, faces of the division. So I think it's great. And then you also look at, Ember Moon. The reason they're taking her out is because she is, I guess what you would say, kind of the top dog in this match. Probably the biggest threat. And that's what good heels do, right? They take out the biggest threat. And that's what I liked all about this. So the formula was very well done, and I really appreciated it. And, I think it's kind of interesting. You get Peyton Royce winning here. You kind of expect it with Billie Kay's help. But, I mean, it's good that you got, a chance to really see her just really dominate and quite a bit of this match. I think Liv Morgan got a lot of, time in the beginning to kind of dominate. But at the end here, it seemed like, Peyton was unstoppable at times. So I think it's good, and I think it helps build. We always talk about building. I think they did a good job here.
Yeah, I think so too. And this really continues to work and at least make that pairing continue to feel just as dangerous as what you have going on with Asuka or Ember Moon or all that good stuff. So I think they're progressing along nicely here, and I would imagine that this isn't going to be the match for Orlando. I would imagine this is going to get down on NXT down the road. So, I mean, I wouldn't get... If you're worried that it's going to be Peyton Royce against Asuka at Orlando, I wouldn't get all wound up about it,
Yeah, and it's funny to say this, and I think we'll have a bigger matchup than that, and maybe bigger than the one I'm going to talk about. I think Peyton Royce is great. She's doing a good job. But you know what? It's almost like weird to say this, but I think Billie Kay pulls off this just really mean heel. And I don't know if it's what it is, but I could just see her being a great, matchup with Asuka too. Mm-hmm. Maybe not just like, Peyton Royce, but I think in a different manner, maybe in a storyline. I could really see that one being a big, heated feud. But I totally agree with you. I think it's going to be Ember Moon. Ember Moon and Asuka is what I got. I think we've talked about that, but that's probably Orlando.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And if we want to touch more on the pairing here, I think Liv Morgan is still the better heel here. I feel like she just gets it. Like I've said this before, I think a lot on this show too. Billie Kay has spent most of her career, if not all of it, as a babyface, and it's a role I'm very used to seeing her in. And it's one I think she plays very well because not only is she very pretty and all that, but she just gets like she's got that girl next door look without all the makeup that she uses now to sort of pull off the femme fatale thing that she has going right now. So I think there is room for her to be a heel. It's going to take more time for her to get there, just because I don't think she's had any or as much practice at being one.
And you're saying it's about Billie Kay?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. See, I don't know. Here, me coming in, this is great because we have this whole situation that we do on this show. And Paul, if everyone listens to the show, or maybe you're a first-time listener, Paul watches a lot of indie stuff, and he knows a lot about a lot of these people from NXT before they even step foot in that door in developmental. So, and I'm more on the side of the casual fan who really kind of, NXT is my first experience with a majority of these people. And so just from my point of view, I think that you have made a good point that I think it's more of the makeup and all that stuff that's kind of convinced me that, probably it is really dirty heel. But I think, you have a good, outlook because you know more about her. So I think that's a great, interesting point. I really never put that in place. I kind of thought Peyton Royce would be the one, but, I trust you. And that's kind of interesting. I like that thought process.
These two, in Australia, especially in their home promotion down there, Peyton sort of had more practice at both. I've never, at least as far as my viewings go, as far as Shimmer and the other places that she's worked, which is, spotty coverage at best after Shimmer. But Billie's always been the big baby face, and it's not hard to see why if you ever watch any of those matches. Just look at her as she is normally. It's like that's a baby face if you've ever seen one. So
yeah, my point being though is she's, to me, bang up job on her part for convincing me, someone who's never seen the outside work outside of WWE. So, but you're right. That's really cool, and I think eventually, you've said this plenty of times, you think they'll eventually change her back to being a baby face.
I do.
I think you said that.
Yeah, and it's mostly just because I don't think her heel performance has been incredibly strong. I think she's great with Peyton Royce. I think she's great. They have a great chemistry together. They work off each other very well. It's just, and it might just be the past coloring my present right now, but she doesn't really seem, she's got a little bit of a nasty streak to her, but she still doesn't seem like a heel other than just the whole better than you thing. And I think that's only gotten better since the pairing with Peyton Royce. I think before that, when she was floating on her own, it wasn't as strong an act,
Yeah, I understand that, and I guess the last point I'll make about this, to not to beat a dead horse, but I think, and you just said this, and I'm wholeheartedly agreeing with this is why we have Peyton Royce in this situation. That's why we don't have Billie Kay, and it makes all the sense in the world. So I'm excited. Even though this is going to be the Orlando thing, I'm excited to kind of see Peyton Royce and Asuka. I think it's going to be fun.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Later on in the evening, we get to see Peyton Royce and Billie Kay celebrate in a promo and claim that she's going to be the champion, and she would already be the champion if it wasn't for Nikki Cross. That is not a line I would want to step over, ladies, but they do, and then they skip away. And then I guess that later on, I forgot about this. They announced Asuka and Royce will be next week, so there's that.
Oh yeah, so it's you're right there. It is happening before Orlando.
I totally forgot about that, mostly because they also announced next week that Patrick Clark is going to show up again, and I might have blacked out for a second and been like, "Oh man, that is something I really don't want to see again."
Yeah, I think that's why we both forgot about that whole Asuka thing, happening next week. And I do want to say that, by the way, that promo that they cut, it was fun. I really like the last comment that they're taking the title down under.
Yes.
Australia. So I had to point that out before I moved on to this Patrick Clark thing, and I don't know. Patrick Clark, I think, could be something. They must be using him for a certain reason, but I don't know. It's very hard for me to take him too serious, and I want to, but maybe I'm getting clouded by the whole experience I had watching him on Tough Enough and some of the other things we've seen him in. So I think it's nice. They're giving him a whole package here. So they have obviously want to use him, but I don't know. I'm kind of with you. I'm kind of like, do I really want to see that again? I don't know.
Yeah, that first appearance he made on NXT, maybe a month or two ago now, just wasn't entirely strong. And I don't have a problem with the kind of act he's trying to pull off. It's just it's so hard to do in wrestling today because viewpoints have changed on how those sort of characters work and. I just, I'm with you. The stuff I've seen of him, I don't know if he's a strong enough character actor to really try to pull it off. But I mean, it's NXT. It's what you're here to work on is getting your act down. So,
yeah.
I think a lot of people continue to forget that this is supposed to be development, guys.
I know, and it's like I talk about this all the time. I really do, and it's the fact that I forget that because we've seen so many great matches on NXT that we kind of like, oh no, this is supposed to be one of the best promotions we watch, and it's it is developmental, and we have to get that sometimes. And I think Patrick Clark can, impress me if he can really get out there and change my perception. And he could. He very well. I mean, 2 months from now, I could be like, oh, Patrick Clark's awesome, blah, blah, blah. Because I'm like you. I'd have no problem with the type of character. That's fine. We've seen this in wrestling before. It's not a big deal to me. I mean, to some people, maybe, whatever. I don't care. Just don't pull Orlando Jordan type things, and I'm okay.
Right.
So as long as we stay away from that realm, let's do it.
Exactly. And I mean, we talk about great matches on NXT, Gary. We definitely got one with Pete Dunne and Mark Andrews here as they have a rematch from their incredible encounter back during the UK tournament in January. And these guys, I mean, dang near pick up right where they left off. Dunne works the ground game, goes for the arm. Andrews likes to do the flippies and gets to do a fair few of them. I mean, obviously not as good as their last match because they didn't get nearly enough time and it didn't have the amount of stakes that other match had where it was about a berth to the finals. But boy, howdy, did they did incredible here. Pete Dunne ends up getting the knees up to block the shooting star press even, and then hits the bitter end on Mark Andrews to get the victory. I got nothing but great things to say about both these guys. They're both incredible workers, and the more we see of them, the better.
We couldn't be on the same page any more than we are right now. I think both these guys are an excellent, pair of UK superstars that we are getting a gift to have in NXT until they do their own UK thing. And I hope we still get them in NXT unless, we start covering the UK program and then we're going to see them all the time anyway. But I look at those two guys and say, wow, right now they fit without any hesitation. And why do they fit? Because Mark Andrews is a guy that, he kind of comes out of the persona of he's a little guy. He's kind of got that whole corny, like I'm a kind of like a I don't know what I don't want to say little punk rocker, but he's supposed to be like this little rock star kind of guy. They always talk about his music and all that.
He does his theme song is from his own band that he has, by the way. I don't know if anybody out there knows that, but it's from his band.
And it's actually not too bad of a song.
I've listened to it a couple of times. I really like it. The music video is hilarious too. It has Broken Matt Hardy in it as well.
Really?
Yeah, it's great.
Now I've got to go watch it, guys. And I will do that. But no, I mean, I want to just kind of touch on their personas, and you're exactly right. That's part of his gimmick, and honestly, it works. It really does work for him. And then you go over to Pete Dunne, and this guy, I mean, I love his attitude. I love the way he carries himself. I love his interviews and just his work in the ring. It's almost like, and they talk a lot about Daniel Bryan with this guy because, of course, he wears the same maroon, has some of the similarities to Daniel Bryan, but I kind of think he's Daniel Bryan and William Regal mixed together. And in a weird way, not just because of the British accents, but we've seen in William Regal's work back in the day, focusing on tearing at the hands, working on different parts of the body that basically looks like he's murdering you, or at least murdering a certain part of your body. And I think he does such a great job at that. And in this match, you just get a perfect little just package, because I think these two guys put on a heck of a match. I was thrilled to watch this. This was something that, they both impressed me. Mark Andrews never really looked like he was out of winning this. Mm-hmm. And that's what I love so much, man, because of the fact that Dunne, I think, really walked out of that UK tournament as the superstar. I think people are talking about him. We see it all over the internet. We see it everywhere. Dunne. But really, are we talking about Mark Andrews? Well, now you want to talk about him more because of these type of matches. And that whole TNA part of his career, he did a good job in TNA. I have no hatred for what he did in TNA. He just wasn't portrayed very well. Mandrews was never somebody I cared about. Man, heck, they are doing such a great job right now with him that I care about Mark Andrews.
So Pete Dunne, I think you're spot on with your comparison. He reminds me so much of William Regal sometimes that it hurts. And the great thing about William Regal wasn't only his work inside the ring, but it was his mannerisms. It was all the little tiny things that he did in the ring that really made you really draw into the character and hate and despise him, and all these other things that Pete Dunne does to an excellent degree too. He's so surly, and he just looks mad the entire time. And I mean, he obviously has the hard-hitting British style that has become more modern today, where it's a mix of the world of sport style meets grappling meets strong style, with a bit of independent American flair to it. Whereas Mark Andrews is, I think, a complete almost package of what an American independent wrestler would look like if he came up in England.
Yeah.
So they work so well together too. Mark Andrews may or may not be bound for 205 Live before they ever get a UK show up and going. I think he's that far along. And you talk about his run in TNA, like, you look at all the guys that are in WWE now that have TNA experience in their background. They all look like either such big missed opportunities like Mark Andrews, or why would you ever let this guy go, like a Samoa Joe or an AJ Styles or all these other guys that just, if TNA maybe hadn't fallen on hard times and figured out what the heck to do with their booking, they really could have been something when you look at what WWE's been doing with all their top guys from the past forever. Yeah.
And trust me, I have a lot to say about that. This isn't a TNA show, so I won't expound on that, but we agree on that too. And if you want to hear probably us talk about that, go check out our regular episodes of Wrestling to the Max. That's where you'll find all that great content, because trust me, I have a lot to say about that. I'm going to zip it because this is NXT. But yeah, I agree with all that you said right there. The one thing I want to I don't want to say negative, but this is kind of the least favorite thing of this match was the ending, only because, I mean, I love that Mark Andrews stunner. Mm-hmm. And it kind of felt like it was a little too quick for Dunne to pop up and 1, 2, 3, hit his finisher. I don't know. That's nitpicking, I know, but I wish that would have been sold better, because it looked pretty sick. I really like that stunner. And I think, man, they should give it a little bit more time before Dunne, got his finisher and all that. So the only thing I'll point out that I didn't really care for.
I mean, I think that's a fair criticism. The Stun Dog Millionaire thing is if you've never seen a Mark Andrews match, is like this twisting, almost like Ultimo Dragon's inverted DDT where he does the flip over, except he spins in the air and comes down with a stunner. It's really cool. And Dunne, it's usually the follow or the prelude to the Shooting Star Press. So maybe that is a weakness, is that you could use another move in there to try to pad it out. But I think overall that the formula worked here. These guys work together so much, And you're right, it's a small nitpick too.
Yeah, exactly.
Moving along, we have Ty Dillinger gets interviewed at the Performance Center to talk about his issues with Sanity, and he praises Roderick and No Way Jose for standing up with him and helping him out and really trying to fight against what Sanity, the rise of Sanity, if you will. And he says that moving forward, he's going to have their backs because they had his. So we have a little babyface army here to stand up against Sanity moving forward there. And then we get to the main event, which does see No Way Jose face Bobby Roode in a non-title match. 7 minutes. It's I think No Way Jose gets more than his fair share in this, but we all knew that this was just another match to make Bobby Roode look incredibly strong. And go ahead and give your thoughts on those two things before we get to the post-match here with the big deal of the show.
And the Ty Dillinger thing was fine. I mean, I think it's good that they still address that, especially since you didn't have Sanity on this episode of NXT. So it keeps them relevant, keeps you thinking about it. I think that's about all you need on that, and they did a good job of that. So no problems with that. And then you get into that match, and I think your assessment is correct. I really do think that this is really about Bobby Roode, just going through another star and proving he's the world champion for a reason for NXT. The NXT champion is relevant amongst some of the NXT's best, and as we've seen, No Way Jose is one of the best, at least right now, that they have showcased and have to offer. So I think that's worth your time. It's a decent match. I think that No Way Jose does get his fair share, which I appreciate. I always hate it when they make guys look bad when they're supposed to be one of the bigger stars on the show, and they definitely gave No Way Jose enough to prove that he's worthy of being there. He's just not good enough to beat Bobby Roode right now. So I like that, and no problems with that.
Yeah, I completely agree with all that. So after Bobby wins, he decides to attack No Way Jose, clips his leg, and locks in a single crab, and really just goes to work on him. And then Kassius Ohno runs in, runs him off, and then we get some promo action here from Chris Hero's new persona, or new old persona here in NXT. Who says, and it's pretty much just Chris Hero with a new name. He's Kassius Ohno. He ain't nothing to mess with. And Roode makes a great joke about, luckily for you, Mr. Ohno, if that is your real name.
I love that.
Roode ends up teasing a fight between them that's going to go on right now. Roode runs in and attacks Cassius's leg, works him over some. And then Ohno fights him off, hits some big elbow strikes, and sends Roode packing. And Ohno even goes so far as to throw a shoe at him. Because, Chris Hero, obviously, our Kassius Ohno ain't nothing to mess with.
Yeah.
And it looks like we're setting up multiple opponents for Bobby now, because obviously we still have Shinsuke waiting in the wings, who is still rehabbing, quote unquote, as a video package earlier in the evening said. Kassius Ohno is here. We've seen the dark segment of him having the title when Shinsuke still had it. Now it looks like he's gunning for Bobby. They're really expecting you to know who Kassius Ohno is, not only based on who he was before, but from his work recently as Chris Hero. And I think that's fair in NXT. I really wish they would build up some more. And obviously this is just a debut, but they're going to need to build up more of a character other than just who he was on the indie circuit for the main roster. I really wish they would start doing that with some of these indie guys, because they're really relying strictly on reputation rather than trying to build a character.
Yeah, and before I actually make my point on that, I just got to say, now we know why they don't have Kassius Ohno with a manager. because he is his own manager, throwing the shoe like Mr. Fuji. Good job. You know, he doesn't even need one. He can do it himself. But that's just a quick joke. I had to throw that out there. No, I mean, I think you're right. I look at this and say, okay, I know this guy. I watched, him back when he was first part of NXT, so I know his history. I've seen him on the indies, when I get a chance to watch a few things here and there on the indie promotion side of things, and they are relying on a lot of things that they're not showing you or really repeating. And I think I would have loved to see some stock footage from back when he was originally part of NXT, or maybe even some things that kind of personified, hey, this is who this guy is or was. That way people who are not, in the know of him, they know who he is. Mm-hmm. So, maybe they just consider the fact that, this is the show that a lot of the smarks watch. A lot of the people that love wrestling and they're going to watch every piece of wrestling they can find are going to watch NXT, which is for the most part true. I can't lie that really is a true statement. But I do wish that they would, give us something. But maybe they're just saying, hey, here he is again. If you don't remember the old days, don't worry about it. We're going to give you new days. Mm-hmm. And, we're going to give you more Kassius Ohno, and we're going to get you into the realm of this is the thought process we wanted with his character now. I have a hard time believing they're going to rely on what he was before. I think they're going to be going in maybe not a completely off the track thought process, but I think they'll kind of change his character up a little bit. I don't think he's going to be exactly the same guy we saw back in 3 years ago.
Right. I mean, if you believe the talk, then the Kassius Ohno gimmick was given to Kevin Owens, who has since gone on to do great things on the main roster. So, I mean, there is that. They have this relationship with Evolve. There's a lot of footage you can use from Chris Hero from there to sort of help bridge the gap from the last time you've seen him to today. I feel like that would be helpful. And it's a criticism I think that's fair, too, because we've seen them do it. Bobby Roode is sort of the exception here, because they geared up a whole package around who he is and what he wants to be. And granted, it is still his old gimmick, but they established that very early on. I think Roderick Strong is another example of what I'm talking about, though. They brought him in, they expected you to know who he was, and didn't really do a whole lot to build up a gimmick around him, just sort of let him go out and wrestle, which is what Roddy does best, obviously. But if the goal here is still to get these guys up on the main roster someday, and you're not going to get them there without doing some gimmick work, at least early on, to help establish them. Because we're seeing that on the main roster, too, where they're bringing up guys early who don't have a full package around them yet, and it's really hampered them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really does. You're correct. And, I here's the one thing that bugs me. I know it's something small, but the whole name thing, I get it. NXT, his name when he first came in was Kassius Ohno. I don't know how on board he is with it. He must be on board enough with it to keep it that way, to sign on that dotted line, unless the money's more important than, the name. Maybe that's the way it is for him. I don't know. I just look at other people walk into this company like Bobby Roode, other people, that have some kind of name, mm-hmm. can come into this company with that name and succeed. Roderick Strong. Why can't Chris Hero walk in those doors? Well, why do we have to rely on Kassius Ohno? I just kind of seems so weird to me. It seems like, he should be on the same level as some of those guys. He's been, my God, a main eventer all over the indie circuit.
Mm-hmm. The culture has changed in NXT since the first time he was there until today, right? Because mm-hmm. I think when he first gets there, independents are popular and all that, but WWE still had the notion that they wanted their own names and their own branding on everybody. And we see it with a lot of the top guys today from the independent circuit, right? Daniel Bryan is a good example. Seth Rollins obviously used to be Tyler Black. Neville, Prince Devitt is now obviously Finn Balor. And you still... There's a lot of all that still going around. It's only in the last year that they've really changed their mind on, hey, there's an audience out there who knows who these people are, and our audience isn't as big as it used to be, so we're going to rely on the fact that they used to be these guys and plant them here and just let them go to town, and if it works, great, and if it doesn't, then maybe we need to go back to the drawing board. But, I mean, Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode, Roderick Strong. I mean, there's only a select few guys now who get signed that get sort of redubbed. So I think it's a culture change that he wasn't around for the first time around, and they don't want to go back on that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I understand, but it'd be hard for me, especially if I'm him. I've put so much behind that name.
Mm-hmm.
We took it around the world, and now I come back and you want me to stick with a different name. I just kind of look at it and say, man, I mean, you are missing an opportunity, WB. You're the ones missing out on this chance to capitalize on this, because when you take me somewhere to Ireland or wherever you're taking me, where they know Chris Hero and you put Kassius Ohno, unless you put my picture beside it, they're just going to go, oh no, you know, whatever, okay. I just think that, man, sometimes a name does mean something, especially when you have these guys who've built that name up all across the world, and which he has been all around the world. So that's just me. I mean, I get it. WWE is kind of stubborn on some things, but I kind of feel like he's earned the right to finally get to be Chris Hero. Maybe the first time, maybe I could, like you said, different culture. They didn't care who you were. You're not going to keep that name. But, you know, come on. New time. He's back. Re-signed a contract in a new era. So.
I mean, I guess that's fair, and we might just have to agree to disagree on that. But that's going to do it for NXT this week. Next week looks good too. DIY is also going to take on Authors of Pain. That was another match I forgot to mention that they had also announced. So lots of tag stuff coming up.
Exactly. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm so happy with some of the things they've kind of set up for us for NXT. So trust me, people, we are going to have some great episodes coming your way on these review shows for NXT. I'm really looking forward to them, and I hope you are too. But yeah, this is over, and we appreciate you for coming and checking us out tonight. Of course, you know, once again, if you want to go find out more of our reviews, of course, our regular episodes of Wrestling to the Max, you just need to go find us on W2Mnet.com. And of course, you can go subscribe for us if you want to go find us on iTunes, Stitcher, whatever you use, on, of course, Wrestling to the Max or the W2M Network. Whatever one you choose is fine. Just go hit that subscribe button, and we will see you guys soon. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Have a good one, guys.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.